Hey guys, what's up? Z here. I've been testing the UMi Z for a little while now, and here's what I think. This phone is definitely a flagship device with the latest Helio X27 processor, 4GB of RAM, and a nice big battery as well. So specs-wise, it's actually pretty strong in all aspects. I also heard that UMi is releasing a dual camera version of the UMi Z called the UMi Z Pro, but I don't have that one yet, but I'm still looking forward to testing that one in the future. But for now, let's get arms deep into the UMi Z. Moving on to the phone itself, the UMi Z is definitely a very well-made phone. It features a completely metal alloy unibody, and it looks and feels very premium. I really wish that the UMi Z came in the matte black that the UMi Plus E came in, because that was absolutely gorgeous. But here, the phone is not too bad either. Both the back and front curve really hard to make this phone feel a lot smaller than it really is. And talking about size, it's not huge, but it's not a Mi Mix either. But the curves definitely help it feel smaller. So I've got two more things I want to say. One of them is good and one of them is kind of bad. So let's start with the good first, and that would be the home button. It's not so much a button you can depress rather than a touch area that you can either tap or hold. I know many of you guys are going to hate this, but I'm personally a fan because I've been using my UMi Z2, which has the exact same thing. There are also two capacitive buttons beside the home button as well. Moving on to the kind of bad, and that would be the personal pet peeve of mine, which would be the camera sticking out the back. But to be honest, it's something I constantly grab about in pretty much every phone that comes out that has this feature. But overall, the UMi Z is very well built and is very attractive. We have a 5.5-inch 1080p LCD screen from Sharp, and the screen is nice to look at. The colors are pretty saturated, and the LCD at max brightness goes up to around 500 nits of brightness, which is more than enough for direct sunlight, but sometimes it can be hard to see if the sun is too strong. The company also used Dragon Trail glass instead of Gorilla Glass to protect the phone, but overall it's been working out pretty well. Moving on to the speakers, UMi has talked a big game about how they have improved their audio because now they have a dedicated chip that goes very well and up to 9.5 volts and all that other technobabble. But in real life, it seems audio has actually been improved over the UMi Plus E. Max volume is super loud to the point of hurting my ears, and audio quality is actually pretty good and does not distort at max volume, which is exactly what UMi claimed. And the sound is very clear and there is quite a bit of bass, so have to listen for yourself. There is a 3780 mAh Sony battery in this phone, and it's definitely a big battery, but it's slightly smaller than what I would have liked, which would have been 4000 mAh. But UMi explained that in order to keep the size of this phone down, they had to put in a slightly smaller battery. So if battery life here is no good, then that's completely on UMi. So in real life, I could get around 6 hours of screen on time over an entire day with about 10 to 15% left of battery. And this was not just texting and browsing and maybe looking at Facebook, but this was also snapping some photos and playing some games as well. Fire Emblem is so good. That's slightly less than the Redmi Note 4, which is understandable because the Redmi Note 4 does have a bigger battery. Quick charge also works. I could get around 30 to 40% charge in about 30 minutes and around 110 minutes for a full charge. Battery life here is great. The battery won't die on you even if you are a heavy user in one day. If you are a lightly medium user, this phone can most definitely get you 2 days quite easily. Android here is completely stock. It's very clean. There is minimal apps installed, just the requisite Google apps on here. And you might find it a little Spartan, but that's exactly the way I like it. There is a navigation bar at the bottom of the screen, which I don't know why it is there because you already have off-screen capacitive buttons. So what is the use of on-screen navigation buttons? Anyway, opening and closing apps was as fast as my Snapdragon 820 and Lenovo Z2 Plus or my UMi Z2. And even compared to my dad's iPhone, it was also just as fast as that. However, swiping was a tiny bit slower compared to those two phones that I just mentioned, and I'm not sure if that's because of the software or because of the input, but the difference is very minor, so you probably won't be able to feel it. I tested out the fingerprint sensor, and it is very fast and accurate, but the bottleneck here is the phone. If your phone is already on, the sensor unlocks the phone incredibly fast, but if the phone is off, and you put your finger on the sensor actually unlocks your phone really fast, but the phone takes a long time to turn the screen on. Still though, this is something that is able to be fixed in software updates, and hopefully it is fixed. I was able to play all the intense games on the Google Play Store with absolutely no slowdowns. I also played a couple of less intense games as you see here, and the experience was very good. Connectivity here is not bad. I get almost as good reception as my UMi Z2, although it is a little bit not as good. Nevertheless, speeds are real decent as well, and everything here works. Just do note that there is no NFC. Both the front and the back cameras here are the same 13 megapixel camera, and there was a flash for both cameras as well. Photos are okay, they are slightly worse than my Redmi Note 4 or my Lenovo Z2 Plus, which in turn don't match up to flagships like S7s and iPhones. Colors are quite deep and saturated, photos come out a slight bit underexposed, still though photos in auto mode generally look very good. This phone does struggle in low light though. Moving on to video, this phone can film in 4K and quality is actually very good, but it still cannot match up to top flagships like the S7 or even the video on the OnePlus 3T. So to conclude, the UMi Z is a very solid flagship. Most Chinese flagships have two areas of weakness, one is the battery and the other would be the camera. The battery life here is good and the camera has been improved to the point where it doesn't completely suck. Everything else is fine. You might find the software a little bit sparse, but that's nothing that can't be fixed with apps from the Google Play Store. So overall, I'm very satisfied with the UMi Z. It's definitely a better phone than the UMi Plus E. Definitely more balanced in terms of specifications. So if you want to buy this phone, you definitely can't go wrong. However, do note I'm going to be reviewing the UMi Z Pro, which is pretty much this exact same phone, except it has a dual camera setup on the back. So I'll test that one out as soon as I can, so be sure to stay tuned. Thanks for watching, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Is my fly down? No, it's not. I'm wearing sweatpants.